Great afternoon, great evening, great morning to all of our colleagues. We will be fulfilling the requirements of Unit 12, which is a group ethics presentation. And we have case study 2, navigating the scope and competence as an intern. My colleagues are, first, I'm Ryan D. Roussel.
I'm Monica Welfare.
I'm Kristi.
And I'm Reema.
Our objective of overview will be as follows. I will be reviewing the case study. Monica will be reviewing the counselor characteristics and behaviors. Kristi will be exploring ethical and legal issues. And finally, Reema for ethical recommendations and decision making. Here's the overview of our case. We'll be navigating the scope of competence as an intern. We have a client whose name is Alex, as a 20-year-old military veteran with a history of combat-related trauma. Alex's background is seeking counseling for PTSD and has specifically requested a counselor with experience with trauma therapy. Jessica, our intern, is a 25-year-old counseling intern with a background in general counseling. She has received minimal training in trauma therapy and feels uncomfortable addressing the complexities of combat-related trauma. Jessica, who is assigned to Alex, is faced with the ethical dilemma of working within the limited scope of competence. Alex's trauma requires specialized care, and Jessica must decide whether to proceed, seek supervision, or refer the case to a more experienced therapist. I'll now be welcoming Monica, who will go over counselor characteristics and behaviors.
Hey everyone, I'm Monica. So I will start off with the definition of scope of competence. So the scope of competence refers to the range of professional activities of the individual practitioner that are performed at a level that is deemed proficient. So now starting with the counselor characteristics and behaviors, I'll start off with self-awareness, which is being mindful of your thoughts and emotions. So Jessica communicates her self-awareness by noting that she feels uncomfortable approaching this case. When it comes to communication, a counselor must be able to express themselves in addition to being a good listener. So when Jessica hears that the client would prefer a specialized counselor, she needs to communicate her position to the client as well, displaying integrity in the process, which is being able to be transparent and straightforward with this client. And by being honest, Jessica is creating an opportunity to build rapport with the potential client and allowing real change to occur. So, the next thing I'll discuss is the willingness to learn, which is the desire to gain skills and knowledge for enhancement. So, it also goes hand in hand with being open minded and receptive to new ideas. So Jessica, she needs to be open-minded and eager to learn, which will show her receptivity to new opportunities and her ambition to expand her skill set. Thanks, Ryan. So when it comes to problem solving skills, um, it's finding a resolution to perceived obstacles for an optimal outcome. Jessica sees this case as an obstacle, and though she does not have a solution yet, she does have three options. She can take the case with her limited scope, seek supervision, or she can refer the case to someone more experienced. Counselors must have problem solving skills because there will be different ethical dilemmas that may arise, and the counselor will have to decide what the best option is for everyone involved. So it is definitely a main characteristic. Uh, Something that counselors must have is confidence. So, counselors must exude confidence so that the client feels comfortable enough to share their stories, right? It's the belief in oneself that one has the ability to meet the challenges and succeed. Jessica's not feeling fully confident in her ability to provide this client with the help he needs, but she is still somewhat optimistic in the idea of possibly taking on the case, which is a great deal, which is a huge thing. So the next thing is empathy. Empathy is a component in counseling. It's a huge component in counseling because it helps clients feel as if they're not alone. And sometimes the show of empathy can help foster a beautiful emotional connection between the client and the counselor. It's something like getting down in the hole with the client. It's a beautiful thing. It makes them feel like they have someone that they can rely on. So, and last but not least, ethical. Being ethical is a major part of being a great counselor because it puts the client's welfare at the forefront. So Jessica has to decide which direction would be the best and most ethical outcome for the client so that he can get the most out of this counseling experience. So I am going to turn it over to Kristi with ethical issues.
Thank you. I just want to point out before I start talking about the ethical and legal issues that there is a lot of overlap, like just within the ethical issues, but also between the ethical and legal issues. So it might sound repetitive, but I think that a lot of that is built into the code of ethics and our legal system on purpose. So the main thing that Jessica needs to remember at the beginning is that her responsibilities as a supervisee and an intern are the same as they would be if she were a fully licensed professional counselor in terms of the ACA Code of Ethics. She still has a responsibility to understand the Code of Ethics. She still has the same obligations to her clients. And as we all know, the primary responsibility of counselors is to respect the dignity and promote the welfare of our clients. So Jessica may want to refer this case because she's uncomfortable with her level of training. She may want to keep the case because she really needs this training. But she needs to be able to distinguish between her own desires and what's best for Alex. How can she promote his autonomy and respect his dignity? Non-maleficence. Can she make sure that she's not causing him any harm? And can she be more proactive than that and actually do good in terms of beneficence? She needs to foster fairness and equality with him and treat him like she would any other client who comes to her with this request. And she needs to maintain trust in the relationship. So that's what fidelity is. She needs to tell the truth about her qualifications and what he can expect from this experience, and that folds right into veracity, truth-telling. Next slide, please. Standards A2A and A2B of the Code of Ethics talk about informed consent, namely that we need to provide our clients the opportunity to give informed consent, which they can't do unless they have all of the information that they need. In section A2B, one of the items that's listed as a piece of information that the client needs is information about your qualifications as a counselor. Standards C4A and F1B of the Code of Ethics talk about accurately representing your training and your position as a supervisee. So when I was thinking about this, I thought, there's a chance that that Jessica is tempted to play down her status as a supervisee or maybe play up her qualifications. Maybe she's working in a public healthcare setting and they're short-staffed, and she could be looked down upon for referring or seen as weak for not facing this fear that she has of providing counseling to Alex. But it's really important, as the Code of Ethics state, to accurately represent her qualifications. And then Standard A2 overall talks about informed consent in the counseling relationship, and we know that this is that Alex should have the freedom to choose whether he enters into this contract with Jessica or someone else. Next slide. Standards C2A and C2B talk about only practicing within the boundaries of our competence as counselors. So making sure that we have the education, the training, and the supervised experience that we need to work with a particular population. Okay, next slide. So legal issues. Remley and Herlihy discuss the fiduciary relationship. A fiduciary relationship is one in which the fiduciary must act in the best interest of the other person. So in the counseling relationship, the counselor is the fiduciary, and they need to be looking out for the client's best interest. Remley and Herlihy are very clear that the law itself is very clear on fiduciary relationships, and it will judge a counselor harshly if it appears that the counselor chose their own interests over the client's. Wheeler and Bertram talk about practicing within the boundaries of one's competence. So again, they talk about the fact that scope of competence isn't just an ethical issue, it's a legal issue. So your professional identity as a counselor comes into question when someone makes a claim of negligence or malpractice against you. So a person can expect to have their training questioned if one of these accusations is made, and this is something that Jessica needs to keep in mind as well. And then lastly, she just needs to be aware of any relevant state laws that apply in her particular situation. In Arizona, for instance, the Arizona code is more about the supervisor's role in this situation. Jessica's supervisor needs to be making sure that she's providing her client with the appropriate notice of her status as a supervisee. In Florida, she could come under discipline for failing to meet the minimum standards of performance. So if she is taking on a client who she's not accurately trained to help. So that's it for the ethical and legal issues, and I'm going to pass this over to Reema.
Hi everyone, I'm going to be talking about the recommendations and strategies Jessica should follow in order to maintain legal and ethical obligations. First up, I would say she should seek supervision and consultation. She should seek immediate supervision from a qualified supervisor who is experienced in trauma therapy, because they can provide support, guidance, and strategies for clients who experience PTSD. I think she should consult with colleagues who have experience in trauma therapy, because they can provide valuable insights and support. Next, I believe she should continue ongoing professional development. She should continue training in trauma therapy by attending workshops, seminars, and training programs. That way she can gain additional information on professional development opportunities in trauma therapy. I also believe she should continue education in areas relevant to trauma and PTSD to enhance competence and confidence in handling such cases. And that way she can get better knowledge in working with trauma therapy and have a better guideline on how to navigate this relationship. Next, I'm going to be talking about informed consent and transparency. Informed consent, she should ensure an understanding of limitations and have an open and honest discussion with Alex about her current level of experience and training in trauma therapy. And that way, that goes into transparency as well, in order to build trust and rapport and create an effective therapeutic relationship. She should consider referring Alex to a specialist that could help Alex better with his PTSD, and that way he's cared for throughout his process. And if this is the case, this is the step she takes, she can do a collaborative approach and work with the specialist. That way they're both ensuring that Alex gets the best care he deserves. Next, I'm going to be talking about strategies I believe she should follow. First, she should develop a supervision plan. She should continuously work with the supervisor to discuss Alex's progress, challenges, and strategies in order to make sure she's providing effective care. She should set goals with Alex in order to show him that he is making progress rather than just being at a standstill. Goals can also help Jessica gauge if the relationship is working or if she should refer him to a specialist. Utilizing evidence-based practices. Trauma-informed care she should use in order to understand the impact of trauma, promoting resilience and avoiding re-traumatization, and that way she can ensure that it's a safe environment for Alex. Cognitive behavioral techniques are known to help patients with PTSD, and that way using plans that are already in place and known to be effective can help her have a guideline on how to help Alex more effectively. And lastly, next slide, please. Self-reflection and self-care are very important. Self-awareness can let Jessica know if she has any triggers that she may have, and help her get in touch with her emotions before giving Alex any care. That way she knows where the line is within the relationship, and she knows how to handle situations in where she may be triggered. Self-care is important because cases like this do cause stress at times, and preventing burnout is important when working with trauma clients because they're very sensitive, and it's a very sensitive case as well.
In closing, as we navigate the scope of competence as an intern requires a multifaceted approach that includes seeking supervision, engaging in ongoing professional development, maintaining transparency with clients, and considering referrals when necessary. By implementing these recommendations and strategies, considering counselor characteristics as well as legal and ethical decisions, Jessica can enhance the counseling relationships with Alex, ensuring that he receives the specialized care he needs when adhering to ethical standards. In closing, we have a list of references that point to all of the points that all of my colleagues pointed to. That is all we have today, and hope you enjoyed our presentation.